Hey there, I'm Ken Lundin, and I'm the president of Ken Lundin and Associates. The best advice that I've ever received is this: to control your emotional energy and where you let your negative energy control the energy space around you, and really lean in to only the things that you can control in life.
Ooh. Energy management by focusing on your locus of control. I dig that, man. So where did you learn that, Ken? That's really powerful.
Yeah, honestly, it's the best lesson I learned. I think it was a culmination of some things that happened with some really good friends. But the short version everyone's seen is, 2011, I had to file bankruptcy when I owned my first business. And during that journey, which, if anyone thought that like filing bankruptcy was like the low point of the journey, it's before the curve, right? So you go through a lot of it. And I think it was that time period and that self reflection and really working through, I would, to this day, just say some of my friends probably acted more as counselors than they realized. And it helped me come back and build some of the things we've done today.
Awesome. Awesome. Good for you, man. So cool. Well, I love a good rebound story, but with that, right? You talk about control. We're going to talk today about lazy sellers and accountability and some stuff. So why are sellers lazy? And I'm using air quotes if you're listening to this. Why are sellers lazy, Ken?
Oh my gosh, man, Phil, it has only gotten worse. Like people, there's guys like you and I out there hacking hey, virtual selling, come learn to virtual sell. And I would argue that's all just a bunch of junk. At the end of the day, what's really happened over the course of the last 2 years is sellers have gotten lazy because they've forgotten that their focus is supposed to be on creating value for those that they serve, right? You get sellers showing up on virtual meetings in baseball hats, and you have them not turning the video on. Well, you'd never, in the old days, you'd have never walked into a boardroom wearing a ski mask. I mean, so let's do some stuff here and let's create some value for the people that we serve. And so over the last 2 years, pandemic-ish, I would ultimately say this: I believe sellers and managers have become lazy about their craft. And we're already an industry that's suffering from saying that we don't put enough time into education, training, and so forth.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. So let's start at the beginning there. You talk about how people look, and I hear, but Phil, I want to be authentic. I want to be authentically me. And that's great, except I would argue your seller doesn't know you. They're expecting you to respect them, right? So what do you say about this authenticity? I'm going to show up in a ripped t-shirt and a baseball hat on backwards, and this is how I sell.
Well, some of the advice that was given decades ago is still pretty good, right? So my mom sold Mary Kay Cosmetics, right? The whole thing, if anyone remembers, where you see like a pink Escalade driving around town, that's somebody who's making a living, being very successful at that. And they told her, and I remember this when I was a kid, dress for the next level. So if you were an individual producer, dress like you wanted to be a manager. And I still think there's some of that. You can be authentic, you can be you, but you must respect the people that you saw. And if there's a gap between who you need to be authentically versus who you're serving, you need to change industries. Because the truth is, I had this conversation with a seller just yesterday. The truth is, if you can't be authentically you 24 hours a day, when you're at home with your family and when you're in a professional environment, you're in the wrong job. So go ahead and make the change today, because that idea of I'm going to be different also tells you why. I saw a stat from Becca Holland, I think it was 75% of sellers aren't going to hit 75% of quota this year. So if you're a seller and you're not crushing quota, I mean, let's just listen to some of the people who've been before you so that you don't have to take that right cross across your chin, because we can help you figure out how to do this thing right.
Yeah. Yeah. I love what you said there, right? If you can't be authentically you, change industries. I think that's super important, right? Or change who you serve. I will tell you that I used to wear a Pac-Man jacket when I would present and talk, and hey, that's great if I'm selling to marketing, right? That's great if I'm selling to the under, either the under 30 or the crowd who really digs retro. But really, right, that basically says, hey, discount my message because how I feel is more important than how you feel.
Oh,
Right.
that's
And
so good.
right? I mean, that's really what we're saying here. Now, that being said, right, of course, I've got white glasses on, I've got an orange shirt. Okay, well, if color makes you uncomfortable, well, we got a different conversation, but you're probably not going to buy from me anyway. So I really dig what you said there. If you can't be authentically, you change industry. So first, right, think about that. I think that's a great point. Now, with that, you talked about accountability. And I think accountability starts with the seller, right? The seller. So talk to me about that, Ken, and why that's so important as a sales pro.
Man, yeah, the accountability. So I'm a big fitness guy. I'm in the gym a lot. And those who follow me on LinkedIn, you've probably seen I even posted when I tore my bicep doing a 500-pound deadlift, right? And the reason I do fitness is because I don't believe, personally, for me personally, I don't believe there's anything else that parallels what you need to do to have success in business more thoroughly, right? So I don't feel like going to the gym today, Phil. I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm tired. I've slept like crap. My nutrition's been off, but I'm going to go. So when we talk about accountability, the issue is this: discipline is what keeps you consistent and going when your motivation wanes. And unfortunately, too many people are still waiting for the handout. Like in sales, you have the ability to create the life that people around you want. The problem is that we're still sitting around asking for someone to give it to us. And so I think ultimately what that comes down to is this, is we have to be able to come back to and be accountable to ourselves. I can tell you the top sellers in the world, and Phil, I would be interested in whether or not you agree with this or disagree with this. The top sellers in the world, their managers will never have a higher expectation for their performance and their day-to-day discipline than they do.
Absolutely true. Absolutely. Well, it has to be, right? It has to be because my manager is going to measure to the mean, to the average, right? The average person. And while I'd love my manager to individualize that performance conversation, that doesn't happen, especially not in sales, right? If you're clubbing it, well, go club it and go away because I'm probably going to ignore you. And right? I mean, really, you're not going to get as much attention, sadly, as you possibly could. So,
yeah, because what do? They manage from the bottom up, Phil.
Right. That's right. Yep.
Let's take the lowest, let's take our D performer and try to turn them into a C. Instead of let's take our A performer and put the same level of accountability on them and pull up who we can. And just be okay with some people aren't going to be performers and they're in the wrong seat.
Absolutely. Totally agree. Right? I mean, 10% of 100 is more than 10% of 40. Let's be really clear here, right? So I totally agree. And from a top seller perspective, we are accountable to ourselves, and I think we're also accountable to the organization, which then bleeds into our team, right?
Yeah, I think so. Here's the thing: as top sellers, let me tell you where the top sellers are having a problem. This massive underperformance is making, unless they're making so much money that it's irreplaceable anywhere else, this massive underperformance by the rest of the people in the sales organization is making them wonder if they're in the right organization, right? They want to be around other high performers. And as a manager, if you're not managing to help those other people understand what accountability looks like. Now, let me be clear about something. If you're saying to yourself right now, listening to Phil and I talk, I'm not a micromanager. We want entrepreneurial people. I can tell you right now that you need to come back and just get in and listen to about 1,000 of Phil's podcasts, because here's the deal. You say I'm not a micromanager, it's because you don't understand what management looks like. People use that as a defensive mechanism, and the problem is we have to be able to create these slots. Like if you have children and you've ever taken a bowling, right? You can go bowling and you can pull up these gutter guards. And they're awesome because you never throw a gutter ball because the ball just bounces off of them. But it always hits the pins. As a manager, it's your job to put the daily gutter guards in so they understand the behaviors that will ultimately lead to their success. And so I would tell you, you've got to really, really think about that, because I've seen more top producers change roles in the last 6 months than we've seen in the last 5 years.
Totally agree, right? I mean, it's interesting, right? We talk about the Great Resignation. I read about this, right? And I see, okay, people are leaving, but it's not the turkeys that are leaving you. It's your top performers because you have not put in enough guardrails, either A, to empower them to sell more, or B, to bring the organization up. Because, of course, I get it, right? Our quota is determinant on the profitability of the whole organization. Okay. Right. Right. Yeah. Right. But that's what we hear. And I hear that. Right. I understand that. Right. If the whole organization isn't profitable, that sucks. But the challenge is we got so many turkeys that are not flying that don't even know how to fly. So let's help them, Ken. Let's talk about some of those key metrics, because here's what I'll be curious to see what you think about this, right? It's not about 100 dials a day. It's about how many connects do we have per day and how many real conversations do we get today? Because I'll tell you, until you get a connect, right, I don't even want to see anything in the CRM. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. So let's talk. Before people misconstrue what you're saying, because I'm in alignment, but there is something that gets missed in this conversation. And if you have a sales organization who's not being accountable to prospecting, is essentially what we're talking about, outbound prospecting, you have an organization that's not being held accountable to that. You must be very aware of the friction points and how to get them to be accountable. And so we always talk about kind of our sales pyramid. And the first thing you'll have to do is the exact thing that nobody wants to do. And that is you are going to have to micromanage the activity to some extent. You got to do that for a couple months, because the sales pyramid says this. It says, if you're crushing it at sales, I'll just figure out what else I got to help you with. Right? But if you're not getting your sales number, but you're getting enough opportunities, okay, then as a manager, I'm going to step in there. I'm going to see where I can help. And then it goes opportunities down to meetings. Okay, well, I'll step in there. Oh, not enough meetings converting to ops. But the very bottom is the baseline activity that somebody must perform in order to be successful. So don't miss that. But when you tell your team, I'm going to spend 3 months doing all the stuff I don't want to do, which is managing your dials, activities, and everything else, you say it is with the goal of managing to only metrics that matter. And the metric that matters is your first meetings. How many discovery calls can you create, and how many of those will turn into opportunities? That's where we're going. Too many leadership, too many CEOs, founders of small companies, sales managers skip the step of how to get to only measure the stuff we want to measure.
Yeah, I think that's an awesome point, right? We have to start with fundamentals before we can go to an advanced skill. I mean, if to use your sports analogy, until I can run up the middle, there's no sense running the spread, right? There's just no sense of that, because they're not ready for that. The line doesn't know how to block. The running back doesn't know what they're doing. The quarterback is like, I don't know what I'm doing here. But if we can focus on those fundamentals of those baseline activities that we get, and set some discovery calls and have some real conversations with people, right? Now we've got something here. So what do we do, though, if there's nothing, like maybe if marketing isn't helping us? You talk about control, right? Mm-hmm. And what do we control? As a salesperson, I can't control the output of the marketing organization. So how do I focus on what I can control to overcome my marketing deficiency?
Yeah, it's my contention that even at the top producer level, that my standard, and I don't work, mostly it's my team who works directly with our sales reps that we work with. So I don't work with many of them anymore, but I still do work with quite a few top performers. We're talking top quintile, $350,000 to $600,000 in annual income salespeople. We have a standard in order for them to stay engaged with me. And that is they must create 25% of their own new business. And so even at the top seller level, that's a mandate. And the reason is this. Selfishly, I want them to keep their income for themselves and their families and for what it's done for them. They become a target if new leadership thinks that they're only closing the stuff being handed to them by marketing. So you must create your own business. And that is a skill set all over the place a little bit. But look at the SDR role, right? The average SDR is in there for about a cup of coffee. If you'll sit there for 18 months, though, and rock that thing for 9 of it, I promise you it's worth $1 million in compensation over the course of your career. But yeah, the things you have to be accountable, and how do you do that? And I don't care if it's 400 phone calls to get you one meeting, or if it's one phone call to one person who refers you to somebody, which, by the way, if you've got any experience, you've been with the company for any length of time, you've made any sales, it's the number one way to grow it. We have a client that we did that with 5 years ago who just got sold, and we increased their revenue by 300% in 6 months by doing nothing but going sideways in organizations. So yes, take accountability for your own revenue production, because then you also protect your income.
Yeah, and I love that you basically said, kind of screw marketing, don't worry about it. Instead, focus on referral, because I think that's so important, right? So as I'm prospecting new business, the most powerful opportunity I have is through people I already know, right? So, hey, they're connected to Ken. Ken, do you actually know this person, or is this just a LinkedIn connection? First question, right?
Exactly.
First question, right? You got to ask that. And then if you do, hey, Ken, would you make an introduction for just a conversation? I'm not looking to sell. And it's so interesting because I get no resistance from my referral sources, but other people are like, oh, he's going to sell. I don't want to sell. I don't even know if I have anything to sell you. Like, for real, I just want to talk to you. I want to understand what's your current state. Because if you got no current state, like, oh, we don't use crayons. Well, then I'm not going to sell you any crayons. Okay. Like, come on, right? Like, I want to understand. Okay, how are you overcoming the lack of crayons in your organization? Right? I mean, these are things that are helpful to know. So with that, right? So disco calls, I think Ben captured it here. The metrics that matters is how many first meetings, which is absolutely brilliant, right? That's great. So is there some math here that you divide like first meetings into revenue, or how does this work, Ken?
Yeah, I think the front end. So we try to look at sales conversion rates by stage. And by the way, we think so poorly of what marketing has done to keep up with sales and actually getting to attribution of revenue that we've launched our own marketing agency because we're tired of hiring and firing them. So that's how seriously I believe this, right? We put our money where our mouth is. But yeah, we look at conversion rate by stage. And so as an example, the primary conversion rate that I am interested in is the percentage of first meetings that turn into opportunities. That in itself will tell me a lot about the salesperson and the opportunities they're vetting. So in their studies, and I don't remember if it was Bridge Group or Top Sales, but there's somebody out there who said, from an SDR perspective, the top SDRs, those like first meetings convert at a 50 to 60% rate into opportunities. Think about it this way, though. If you're listening right now, jot this note down and you go check it. Because most teams we see are converting between 20 and 30.
Oh, or way less. A lot of times it's 10%.
And if you're converting first meeting opportunities somewhere like that, so let's say it's 10, but you can get to 40, don't run by this. That's 4x the revenue opportunities without producing one single additional lead. That's why understanding your pipeline conversion rates matter. So for us, what we're looking for is we're trying to get, because especially when you're talking about account executives and BDMs, because we weren't specifically talking about SDRs, right? Account executives and BDMs, based on doing it through referral or other means, should be converting at a minimum of 50 to 60% on that to create opportunities. And that's a trailing number. So it may not happen this month, because the good news is when you go out and prospect and talk to people, you tend to get to them before the RFP. You tend to get to them before they're already through their buying journey 50% of the way. So if you can get that conversion rate, the sales math works out really well, because then we see new enterprise, especially we're talking about, let's say we're selling to enterprise accounts, and let's say the average ticket size is north of $250,000 to $1 million, $1.5 million. In that rate for new logo acquisition, on opportunities created, we think you should be somewhere between 30 and 40% in your total close rate if you did it that way. So we're watching those metrics. And what's awesome as an organization or a seller, you want to create income? I just gave you the sales math. Go have more first meetings that create opportunities that you know you're going to close at a 32% rate. Watch you change the life for you and your family.
Yeah. 1 out of 3, if they close, going to change the game, right? If you're only at 10%, 300% more So that requires good qualification, though. That requires deeper conversations. That requires more research. So how is there a math on the research on the front end before I get to that disco call, Ken?
Yes and no, because I think at the end of the day, it goes like this. The number one, the fifth number one biggest problem. The fifth number one biggest problem, which might be the first number one biggest problem, is this. B2B companies are doing a horrible job, and I think I did that in like 5 syllables, actually identifying their ideal client profile and the personas within them. Now, let me be clear, because there are people listening right now who are going, Ken, you don't know what you're talking about. I got 7 personas and marketing made them all. And I'm going, no. Because you don't understand the real impact your solution has on your buyer's world. You understand the features and benefits, and it puts out a pretty report. But you need to understand, what are my strategic objectives over the course of the next 12 to 18 months, and how does your solution fit into that, and what are the things I'm worried about? And so that's why I kind of do that. Well, is there math on research or whatever? I say no, because I don't think they have enough control over their ICP and their persona. You know, I used to, quick side note, so up until 2 years ago, I always served as a fractional chief sales officer for one of my clients. What that meant was I was their lead seller, sales manager in front of their clients, constantly testing what we were doing. You want to talk about ramping somebody's onboarding time and making it really great where they're productive? I could be in front of any client, from technology to mystery shopping to name it, random industry, because I never needed to know the technical parts of their solution. I only needed that 3 weeks to study what was going on in their buyer's world. 3 weeks in front of them, producing deals, holding discovery meetings. That's how important that is.
Wow. So studying what's going on in your buyer's world, most important thing, way more, I totally agree, right? Way more than the product, way more than the features and benefits, which you can do with research with Google, right? I mean, you can figure this out, right? So what are the top 10 challenges of a CMO? What are the top 10 challenges of, right? And you can see that, find that out, pressure test that, get in front of some, hey, this is what I'm seeing. Is this right? Is this what you're seeing too? Is this a challenge for you? If it is, how are you overcoming that? I mean, that's discovery. Even if I don't sell, I'm learning more, right? I'm getting more there. So we start with value though. So what do I give back on those meetings, Ken? What do I share back? You started out really clear with focus on adding value. So how do we add that value back when I don't know about my product or solution other than how it impacts the buyer's world?
Well, here's the deal. What's your purpose? So Phil, I'll ask you this. We're going to say this, right? We're going to limit the discovery call to a 30-minute call. So first of all, anybody running it longer than 30 minutes or doing a discovery and a demo together, by the way, your chances of closing it just went in the toilet. Okay, so that's one. So in that discovery call, assuming we have a 30-minute call, what's the purpose of my call? What's the number one thing that I want to have happen, Phil?
I want a second call.
Well, let's say you're in a discovery call. You got 30 minutes. You're going to talk to me. I'm your prospect. What do you want to happen at the end of that call?
I want you to, I want to understand what some challenges are, and I want to set our next meeting. I want to set our next appointment where I can maybe demonstrate some value.
Yeah. And here's how you do it, because people forget about this. We've tried so hard to desensitize America. We're supposed to be super sensitive outside of the business world to everything and everyone. I don't even know who I'm supposed to be sensitive to anymore. And then inside the business world, we're like, everything's logic and ROI, and it's, we're puffing up our chests. Here's the deal. The discovery call, your only goal is to give the prospect hope that you might be able to help them. Because if they have hope, they'll set the next meeting, right? We use something called the perfect meeting format. And what that does at the end is we use a bookend and a prescription. And the bookend says, hey, Phil, so based on data, can I replay what I heard from you? so that I can get it right in my head. Well, I heard you were, this was important, these are some challenges. Did I get that right? Phil says yes. And I simply go into my prescription. How many sellers do you know that actually have an active prescriptive step where they know they're going to prescribe what we're going to do next? So we prescribe the last thing is the prescription. Well, based upon what we talked about, Phil, the most valuable thing for you would be if we did this next. What do you say?
I like that. Ooh, I like that. The most valuable thing to you is, that's a strong, strong statement, man. And that, to your point, right? If I don't have any hope that you're going to help me, why the heck would I talk to you again? Right? I mean, that's the whole thing, right? I'm like, oh, you're really nice. So yay, I like your shirt. That's great. And, but there's nothing here. So I really dig that, Ken. And I love your line there. The most valuable thing to you is, and sadly we're out of time. So yeah, so can we talk about that on Tuesday?
We can talk about it whenever.
Right? I mean, that's it. No. I mean, right, that's it though. That's the hope, right? If I believe that I got you there, right, you're going to ask me for a meeting. Yeah. Because I understand you.
Prescriptive next step. You only have 3 possible outcomes, so be prepared for them all, right? 1 is we're going to go directly to the next step. 2 is we're going to close the lawsuit and say, nice to see you, and hopefully try to provide them a referral to show value. 3rd one, we're going to redo the step with more people in the room. Just understand why each one of those is the most valuable next step, and let's go, because that's how you get a goal-aligned next step that people will say yes to.
Awesome. That's great. Well, you talked about you're just launching a marketing arm of your organization because that is a problem. So talk to me about that. Like how do you solve for that? I mean, you're a sales guy, Ken. How does that happen?
So Ken Lundin and Associates has been around for about 5 years. And in that time, I've been tasked in those fractional roles and other roles to help identify digital marketing agencies for our clients. And then in addition to that, I've hired some for myself. I actually have somebody who's got big agency experience that's leading the initiative. We're working with, the nice thing about marketing is there's a massive amount of people with massive amounts of experience. So it's real easy to go from, I don't have a marketing agency, to holy crap, we've got a great one. So that's pretty cool.
Yep.
But, at the end of the day, what I found was this, is there was a massive disconnect between marketing and the rest of the organization. And this isn't just for companies. Our typical company probably runs somewhere between $3 and $50 million bucks. But we have publicly traded companies, and we've worked with some of the Fortune 100. And in every single instance, there's a massive disconnect between marketing and sales. Sales goes, marketing, the leads stink. Give me the Glenn Berry, Glenn Ross leads, right? And then you got marketing going, sales doesn't close anything, right? And then you get this massive hole where it's funny. Marketing is the place everybody keeps to spend money, even when there's zero attribution. Right. So what I said was this, like we're working this together today. The new marketing company, the website's getting launched this week, is called Revenue Heat. So let's turn up the heat on your revenue. But what's going to be really cool about it from our perspective, a couple things. We're going to take a funnel approach. So we're going to say, we're going to work specifically content and strategies for top, mid, and bottom of funnel. Second thing is, we're going to specifically work towards improving conversion rates on the sales side on some of the things that we've talked about. And so we're going to take this dual-pronged approach for clients who want the full service, as opposed to I just want marketing, I just want sales, because somebody has to step in and stop the madness, because it's the most ineffective spend people have right now, and they don't even know it. So maybe that's a little longer-winded, but you can see I'm passionate about it because somebody's got to do it.
Yeah, well, for sure. I mean, the alignment between marketing and sales is so often missed because, to your point, I don't even know. I created content. Here's an article. Hey, here's a podcast. Oh, hey, here's a white paper. Right here's a. I did this infographic for you, but it doesn't talk to the challenges of your target customer. That's the challenge, right? So to solve that, I think it's great that you're doing that. So if folks are thinking, wow, I got sales challenges, I got marketing challenges, Of course, right? They can talk with you, but I want to talk about. So, what do you think, Ken, should be a first step, like a next step for someone who's considering, if they want to keep it in house for now, their next step that they want to do to get marketing and sales more aligned?
Yeah, I think in every case, in almost every case, you should have something else. But you have to be cleared on what disciplines are cheaper and easier to outsource than the ones are that keep insourced, right? Like our core competencies, we will never outsource any of the sales stuff that we do. All right, it's our IP, it's our proprietary stuff. And there's not another entity that has. There's lots of experiences out there, but they're not our experience. So I would say with any business, that's first. Second is you really have to have a conversation because I think so few people do. I would really say if I'm spending $10,000 beyond agency fees, but that's actual pay-per-click, SEO, whatever it is, and we're talking on the marketing side, I would specifically look at where are we spending it in which piece of the funnel and get sales and marketing to agree that they agree that that's where it's being spent, right? Because as an example, people say that marketing and trying to get an SQL or trying to get somebody to fill out a form to get a demo, that direct action type of call to action is actually top of funnel. It's actually top of mid funnel.
Yeah, for sure. Yep.
Right. And so think about it that way. That in itself is a massive disconnect on how the money's being spent and whether or not we measure success. I would look at that. The other thing I always want to look through, like we believe that every client, and we do it first internally, we believe that you have three constituents in your business, three possible constituents. We have the client, right? We have your internal employees. For us, it's our consultants. And then in addition, we have potential investors. And the reason we always put the investor pool in, because that means we will always have options when we grow our company. And so to that end, another thing that you have to understand is customer acquisition costs. Too few people understand how many marketing dollars are turning into actual sales. So what's your actual CAC? That matters. Where's the money being spent in the funnel? And the other thing, I was reviewing a client's account just last Thursday. Is your marketing targeting your potential buyer? Like we talked about it, sales doesn't understand the ICP and the persona. You said it, marketing's not speaking to them. So I saw like a software engineering company that provides staff augmentation stuff, like where they'll go in and do mobile design and stuff. But all their social was targeted at engineers, not potential clients. Like, fine if you're trying to go through a hiring spree, but not, there's no way you're going to get, revenue-based action off that. So hopefully that was valuable.
Yeah, no, it totally is, right? Totally is. So figure out your customer acquisition cost. Where are you spending it? Get alignment, right? And understand your three constituents. I think that's super, super valuable, right? And have those conversations, right? Get them together, have those conversations, because sales and marketing have to speak the same language. What does top of funnel mean? What does middle of funnel mean? What does bottom of funnel mean? What's a qualified lead, right? I mean, that's the other challenge, right? I mean, we could talk all day about what a qualified lead is, right? So all those things are super, super important and super valuable for that. So any last parting bits of wisdom here for folks who are like, holy crap, this is a lot of stuff, man. You got some hope for them? Give us some hope, Ken.
Yeah, there's definitely some hope. Look, here's the deal, right? We're coming to a stage right now, just like after 9/11, right? There were a lot of changes that happened in the world. There were this many, thousands of them. But what happened is we came back to a normalcy of a specific set of them that stayed. And so I'll give you the hope and where you need to go. And what you need to be able to do is identify this. How has the current environment and the potential way that your customers and clients are going to interact with you in the future changed? And which pieces of that do you believe will remain different? Because if you're not considering what your brand identity looks like and how your consumers consume your content and your brand right now, from a standpoint of sales and marketing, your whole revenue generating organization, you're missing a massive opportunity. Valuations are huge right now for companies. Money's never been freer and easier. And the opportunity to grow companies. In just the last month, we've had a previous client sell for $500 million. We've had one receive a $2.2 billion valuation. And we had one sell for $177 million. So there's stuff going on right now. And I'm not saying everyone's got to sell, but what I am saying is those they're able to do that because they're capitalizing on the current environment and what their future's going to look like.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, that is hopeful. There's a lot out there, folks. Get started, get moving, connect with Ken. Go to kenlundin.com, LUNDIN.com. And Ken, you said the new company is RevHeat. Are you getting RevHeat.com, or where are they going to go?
Yeah, it'll be
in a couple weeks.
Yeah, it'll be RevHeat.com. Hopefully the website's V1 is done. So awesome. V1 is done, and hopefully it'll be up just to kind of put the placeholder as we continue. Ultimately, what will happen is the entire company will move from Ken Lundin Associates and RevHeat to RevHeat as we combine sales and marketing resources for people.
Fantastic. Well, folks, if you're looking to get more from Ken, check him out on LinkedIn. He's a great follow. Got full of energy, talking about all sorts of great stuff about sales. Be accountable for your own success if you're in sales. And if you're in marketing, start the conversation with your sales team. Get alignment. Because if you don't, you're just going to keep wasting your money. Great stuff today, Ken. Thanks so much for your time, man.